Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WeSportin podcast. We have these four goofballs here, so you know what that means. More NCAA basketball. And the national championship game is set. One more game. The big dance, the final countdown, whatever you want to call it, is set. I don't know if you can sing that. I don't know if it's copyrighted or not. So
I said it. It can't be. Unless I'm that good, which I'm not.
Yeah, Michael's not accurate enough for him to pick up on.
Exactly.
Speaking of, we have Nico and Tim here, and Michael is back from just talking about sports back once again.
Back again. Michael's
Love
back.
to see it.
Michael
Hello,
is
friend.
indeed.
I have no friends. Wait a minute. That's
back.
not it.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
I'm gonna wait
Glad
for
to know
Michael
that the
to finish.
chaos. Glad to know that the chaos didn't leave.
No, the chaos absolutely did not leave, as seen in the games.
Yeah,
But-
that's for sure.
But before we recap the games and make our predictions, a word from our sponsor, because this is a sponsored video again. We just want to take a quick moment of silence for UCLA season, because God rest their soul, they played their heart out. Everybody, moment of silence. And to commemorate UCLA season, we're going to go to Burns Kish Funeral Home.
So what do we look like coming out of these games?
Our records looking out, coming out of these games. Nico has clinched up to victory.
Well, we
41
we
and
did know that.
21. Yeah, he did that a long time ago.
Yeah. Does he have an undefeated winning percentage?
That's true. That's true. Based on winning
2-0.
percentage, the winner, as of right
now,
is still up for grabs because Michael is undefeated at 2-0. Now,
Okay. Can
Hey.
you just get the bleep? Drew, can you get the bleep ready real quick?
sure.
That is horse. Comes on one episode, gets two right, and he's
hey, you can't argue with
Did you
success.
get two right, Nico? Did you get two right? Did you get two right?
No,
I
hey,
have
Michael's
40
undefeated.
Did
I
you
have
get those
40
two right?
I have
Did you get
40
those?
Undefeated.
I have
Undefeated.
42.
Never lost.
Undefeated,
I
never
have
lost. Never lost. Never
42.
lost.
42.
Michael Jordan couldn't take me in his heyday. Yes, I made a LeVar Ball record. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh,
Well, okay. So
Hold on,
so we
can
know.
Drew-
no, I think the bigger storyline heading in is that Tim is sitting at 500. 31
Again,
and 31. Tim
I
is
still managed to
Tim
keep
went
my
1 and
500.
1.
No better, no worse.
so
But that
Drew,
will change. That
Drew,
will change.
that will
after the national
change.
championship. I
Drew.
cannot end 500.
Drew,
What's
when
up?
you're editing
Well,
this,
take the total.
can you please put the never lost after Michael says that, like the LeVar Ball video?
Never lost.
Sure, I'll do that.
Michael, we made it.
Yeah. Tim is sitting at 31 and 31, so it is mathematically impossible with one game left to finish 500. So I know that's
I
what
have
I'm
to
gonna
do
be looking
something.
for. You
Well, I
gotta
mean,
do.
unless you want to pick the total, in which you could.
No, that's not possible.
Or now I go and I pick no contest.
Oh,
Cancel the national championship
like
game due to COVID.
Oh my goodness. To preserve the 500 record. Imagine that.
He's like, Jalen Suggs get COVID. Jalen Suggs get COVID. Jesus.
Now that
I
we
would
know
never
how
wish
we
that
are
upon
in
such a
terms of
stud.
now we know how we are in terms of records. We have some games to recap because we experienced two wild games. The first game this afternoon, Baylor versus Houston. Baylor won by a score of 19, and Nico's smiling because of a Baylor blowout, but I think I was more right there. I said around 15 points. I was closer in the ballpark, so I'm going to give myself a pat on the back there.
I was disappointed by Houston. I thought they were gonna come out.
Yeah,
with
I
a better-
was.
I was
Houston came out
personally surprised. I was personally surprised how much Baylor had their way with Houston's offense.
Yep.
Baylor shook Houston to the core. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it seemed.
Oh, yeah.
So
Baylor
that's
had
one of the
control
things
from
I
start to
really
finish.
give credit to Baylor for that. So if that's what Baylor's going to need to do to this Gonzaga team, because once again, yeah, they reached overtime to do it, but they still broke 90 again.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
Baylor's
well,
defense that game was as good as it's been ever. Houston had nothing.
Yeah.
And offensively, Mitchell and Butler were perfect. That is the best those two have played in a while. They were
Yep.
unstoppable.
Yeah, there's not really that much to say about the Baylor-Houston game. Nico, you can just smile and wave in the corner in knowing that your hated Houston Cougars got obliterated. But let's go to the real show. Gonzaga versus UCLA. That was maybe as good a game that we will ever see. Both teams.
They're going to be talking about this game for years to come.
They're going to be talking
not
about
only because of
long
how good Gonzaga played, but like yes, Gonzaga played well. But to be honest, in all facets of the imagination, we kind of expected that. We've come to expect this team to come out and put on a good showing. UCLA went toe to toe with them for the entire game. Rarely falling behind by a very big margin. They were on fire just as much as Gonzaga was for most of that game. I mean, you look at the numbers. You get another 29-point outing out of Johnny Juzang. I mean, I love that kid's fight. He transferred from Kentucky, I believe it was, where he just had a very middling role. And he really found a home at UCLA, and he battled his heart out for all 45 minutes, putting up 29, 6, and 2. So really proud of the UCLA team, but Jalen Suggs, man, he made the shot. That's what it came down to. If not, you were going to another overtime, and who knows what would have happened in the second OT.
Exactly. Yeah, Jalen Suggs is 100% that dude. And Tim, like you said, UCLA absolutely played their hearts out. There's nothing more you can ask for.
They left it all out on the court.
In an overtime game. They shot 58% from the field, 47% from three. I mean, it seemed like every shot, especially Johnny Juzang, went in the basket. And when you go toe-to-toe with the best team in the country like that, really, quite literally
on the biggest stage, absolutely on the biggest stage. Because a lot of times,
instant classic.
Yeah, a lot of times when you have good teams that come to face another like top tier team under the big lights on the biggest stage, a lot of times they come up short. But UCLA massively stepped up to the challenge, and I will always give them credit. It's hard to play. Very rarely will you see a team play that good of a game and lose.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, with games like that we've seen, UNC, Villanova, Memphis, Kansas, this game is probably right up there with
them. Absolutely.
One of the greatest NCAA games I think probably of all time. I mean, and I picked UCLA, rooting for them the whole game, but respect to Gonzaga. That's a way to walk out and win.
Yeah, with a game like that, you have to absolutely respect it. I mean, and it wasn't just one guy. Like in games like these, it's a one-on-one. Now, it was Jaime Hawkins gives you a punch. Cody Riley's hitting mid-range jump shots. He hasn't done that all year.
He had like 4 mid-range jump shots. I was like, what's happening?
Insane. And then on the other side, Jalen Suggs, Drew Timmy just going. Oh yeah, I got the stash, by the way. Suggs with the block and the dime. Beautiful.
One player I just want to talk about. One player I do want to talk about, and I think I did discuss it with Tim and Drew before this. I believe it was Tyrese Campbell, right?
Tyger Campbell.
Tyro Campbell. Probably played one of the best games that he's ever played under UCLA. I think he played with the most heart, most passion, and I think with him being on that floor, really kept the dedication, just keep going at it. Even though they lost, but they just kept punching and punching and punching. Until basically, I mean, UCLA, I would look at this as you can't be upset by losing like off of that. You can't be upset.
No, I mean, UCLA,
they can be extremely upset, but they can't be upset by how they played.
No,
they played fantastic.
That game, you have two teams playing as hard as they could play, as well as they could play. But unfortunately, one team is moving on. That team is Gonzaga. And that segues me to the national championship game. It is set, the game that we've been waiting for all season, the game that has got canceled not once, but twice. The two best teams in the nation, consensus 1 and 2, Gonzaga and Baylor. And we are going to predict the outcome here today. I'm going to give my picks first, and then the usual order, Tim, Nico, and wrapping up with Michael. Now, this game is so incredibly hard to pick. So incredibly hard.
Kidding.
Yeah. Because you have two very talented teams, two very good teams, and you can honestly flip a coin and be okay with either pick. But with that being said, Gonzaga is 31-0. They've beaten the best teams, and they found a way to win at every level, in every stage, every way possible. They've stepped up to every single challenge. And I believe the first undefeated season since Bob Knight's 1981 Indiana team happens with a Gonzaga victory.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with, because I mean, you talk about like they've won at all levels. Obviously, regular season, we've talked about this day in and day out, the fact that they don't play great competition during the season, but they picked up right where they left off at the end of the regular season at the start of this tournament. They really haven't had a bad performance all tournament. They've showed really strong performances, great grit from all their guys. Strong performances from all around the floor. I mean, you're gonna get good games out of guys like Timmy and Suggs pretty much day in and day out. But I mean, especially in this game against UCLA, they had double figures from their entire starting five. So I mean, you've got guys playing well around the board. When it comes to Baylor, I mean, you talk about shooters. You really have to respect the 3-point line when you play them, and that's going to be a big thing for Gonzaga, is whether or not they can defend the 3-point line, and if Baylor gets hot. To be honest, I see this game kind of being a little bit similar to this Gonzaga UCLA game. I feel like there's going to be a lot of scoring. You're going to get it's two supremely high-powered offenses. You've got some great guys on both sides of the floor, but I really want to stick to my WeSportin bracket that I made in our bracket challenge, where I actually did choose Baylor to win, if I'm not mistaken. But with the way things have turned out, the way Gonzaga's playing right now, I can't vote against these Bulldogs. They're just so good, and they've shown in and out, game in and game out, especially in this game. UCLA gave them one hell of a challenge. There's a lot of teams that would have just one or two plays down the stretch where they fumbled the bag and they misplayed it and they end up losing. But every single time UCLA came out with one crazy shot or some big momentum building, Gonzaga had another answer to go right back at them, either with the three, go inside with Timmy. You got Suggs drive into the lane. They've got guys that can make plays all around the court. And it's really hard for me to envision them losing this game. I've got Dogs.
All right, now it's on to me, I guess.
Yes, Nico, it is on to you.
Yeah, so Tim basically said it all. These two teams are both powerhouses regardless. I mean, we have, Baylor 27-2, Gonzaga 31-0, undefeated. Basically, it's if you can beat Bob Knight's all-time team, or can Baylor catch their natty. The problem that I see with this, though, is that I'm going to have to probably go, and I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go with Baylor. And I kind of look at it as this, and as much as we discussed the starting fives and all that, I think it's more as the depth. And I only saw Gonzaga run 2 players off their bench, as Baylor used most of their bench. And I think what made that game between UCLA versus Gonzaga so close was that only 7-man rotation. And, we all talk about startings, but, a good bench makes a great championship team. And at this point in time, Baylor had that bench play outstanding today, as good as their starters played. And at the end of the day, if I'm going to look at a team to become a champion, I'm looking at their depth and I'm looking at how the team works as a whole. And I'm not going to take a team and I'm not saying, Gonzaga's bad. I'm just saying, if we're talking deep, we're playing 40 minutes?
40.
You guys are going 40 minutes straight? 40 minutes straight, and you're running 7 guys. Listen, we're talking about a Gonzaga team who played outstanding, and their closest game was against an 11-seeded UCLA who had to play in. Baylor, on the other hand, has been just doing great this tournament. But look what they did against Houston, who has a top defense in the country, completely dismantled, and it's because of the depth, and that's why I'm going to take Baylor.
I mean, you bring up a very good point when it comes to the depth that Baylor has, because they started out a tad bit slow against Houston, and they switched that bench in real early, and the bench was actually what kickstarted them into that game. So Baylor's bench really could have a big effect on this game. Biggest thing for Gonzaga, which it had a little bit of its effect in this UCLA game, is foul trouble. Yeah. When it comes to running that short of a bench, you gotta not foul. And one of the things that almost was so close to biting them in the butt was Timmy's 4 fouls. He had 4 fouls, almost got that 5th there with that almost game-saving charge, realistically. So that was a real risky play by him, but he had to make the play, and he did it. So
I would want to say something, but I know Michael has to go next.
Yeah, like we've been saying, this game is a toss-up, and that's where pretty much I'm going to turn it over to Michael and see what the college basketball guru has to say about this game.
So first of all, I'm actually you from earlier, Drew. You said Bob Knight's 1981 team went undefeated. Actually, his 1976 team was the one that went undefeated. So take that, Drew.
Who's the imposter?
got him.
Beans.
Second of all, I think
baby.
everyone's made some really good points on this game, but and yet Tim's completely right. The bench of Baylor, is what got them in that game. Matthew Mayer off the bench was amazing. I mean, he kickstarted that game. He's like, all right, yeah, we started slow. I'm going to hit like 2 straight threes, game over. But I'm going to look, I think Gonzaga has the real advantage inside. I don't think Baylor really has a guy who can match up with Drew Timme. That's my big worry for them. I think if Baylor can play Drew Timme off the floor, I think they win this game. I think that's their key, is if Timmy's off the floor, they have to take advantage. I'm just not sure they can, because they really I think their best lineups was Vital at the 5, so they run in Kamo Chacho and Flo Thamba. I don't think that's their best lineup. I don't really see that working in this game, especially because to beat Gonzaga, you got to switch a lot of actions. I don't think it's going to work. So I lean Gonzaga in this spot. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a lot like the UCLA game we just watched. I think it's going to be a classic. These are the 2 best teams. This is the best possible game we can have. But when I just look at that Gonzaga team, Joel Ayayi turned up tonight. He's their 4th best guy. I mean, you got Kispert has not had a great game in a little bit. I think he can get it going soon. Jalen Suggs is just so good. And Drew Timme, they got multiple guys. Got a ton of guys who can beat you. While they don't run a deep lineup, I think the 7 they run are really good. Well, Anton Watson did not play well today. But I think the other 6 they run are really good. And I think they got enough. I think it's going to be a very close game. I can see it going both ways. But in the end, I'm going to lean Zags.
Real quick, Baylor runs small ball, right? Not small ball, but they don't have a true big.
Small-ish. Yeah.
Small-ish.
They run smaller.
That's one of the things I think that, like Michael said, that's going to run into some issues against Gonzaga is that ball screens, because Timme goes in ball screens a lot, and they're going to try to get switches onto him, and that's what they actually took advantage of against UCLA. Is they got a lot of mismatch on Timme, and he went down on the post, and he just went to work.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it. Tim, Michael, and I are taking Gonzaga. Nico is the outlier here, taking Baylor. And we're going to be set up for a bona fide classic. Matchup of the century, heavyweight fight between – it's the championship bout between the 2 heavyweight fighters, and I can't wait to see this game. So that'll wrap it up for this episode of the WeSportin podcast, NCAA picks. And any of you guys have anything to say to close it out?
Talk for like 1 more minute. I need to think of something.
You have nothing?
Hey, I mean, I'm excited to see what comes of this. It's bound to be a fun one.
It's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah. Well, since Nico's got nothing, until next time, we out.